I'm going to talk about the great apes. We happen to be the most destructive great ape. And because we're the most destructive, we're over 7 billion and growing. And the rest of our cousins are very few in number and dwindling. We're most closely related to the chimps, 98.8%, gorillas 98.4%, and then the orangutans.
Big pattern.
I'm going to talk about the gorillas, my favorite animal. I've worked with gorillas for over half my life. I first started working with them as a vet student. And at the time that I started working with them, there were 650 gorillas, mountain gorillas, actually, specifically. And over time, I got the opportunity to work as a first veterinarian for the Uganda Wildlife Authority and then set up conservation through public health. The numbers have grown, which I'm really pleased about. And this particular gorilla called Kanyonyi is one of my favorites. His father had led the first tourist gorilla group in Bwindi, which has brought a lot of benefits for the community and made gorillas more important to the local community. What are the greatest threats to the mountain gorillas? Habitat loss, just like everywhere else in Africa, in the 11 countries where gorillas are found. And poaching. Poaching is not for the primates, because in Uganda we don't eat primates. But if they happen to cross over to DRC, they can get eaten. In the rest of the countries in Africa, they get eaten. There's a very hard edge, as you can see over here. There's a very hard edge when you come to Bwindi. And Lago team has had an opportunity to come. Most of the park is like this, apart from somewhere in the south where they plant tea, which means when it became a national park, people are not allowed to go in illegally, and gorillas come out. And this results in a lot of conflict. Bwindi is also very unique in that people and gorillas are mixing in other ways. When you track the gorillas, sometimes you cross. This is a microhydro dam that was built to provide water. The electricity only reached Bwindi 2 years ago, and gorillas like to cross it. They like playing, people cross it, and there's a lot of scope for negative interactions. And what we mainly are addressing, and why we started conservation through public health, is disease. This baby gorilla died of disease, scabies, sarcoptic mange, which came from people living around the park who had very little health care. They got it when they go into people's gardens to eat their banana plants, find dirty clothing, and then because they're curious, it spread through the group. I don't think it came from tourists, because tourists who come to Uganda, paying a lot of money to trap gorillas, $600, are not likely to have diseases of poverty like scabies. However, this poor baby gorilla died, and the rest only recovered when we treated them with ivermectin, and then we started to think about community health. These little boys are outside the park, they should be in school, but they're grazing goats. As long as there's poverty in the area, the future for the gorillas and other great apes is very dim. So we started CTPH in 2003, and we have 3 main programs: wildlife conservation, community health, which are the main programs, preventing disease between people and gorillas. And within the wildlife conservation, we have a big focus on wildlife health. We built a gorilla health and community conservation center, where we analyze samples from people, gorillas, livestock regularly to prevent disease transmission. And then we have an active community health program. And we recently added alternative livelihoods, because we found that although other NGOs were focusing on alternative livelihoods and not health, many people are unhealthy because they're poor. So we looked at areas that they were not looking at. We provide our volunteers with group livestock projects. We started the Gorilla Conservation Coffee Social Enterprise, where we work with farmers, prevent them poaching, collecting firewood, by giving them a viable livelihood through coffee. So some of the things that we do, we work closely with the human and gorilla coffee team. That's a gorilla caught in the act, eating bananas in somebody's garden. And so the Hugos, as we call them, or gorilla guardians, are trained by Uganda Wildlife Authority and supported by us and other NGOs like International Gorilla Conservation Program. We train them to monitor the health of gorillas when they're in somebody's garden. They collect fecal samples and bring them to us and look out for those that are sick, and we train them to safely chase gorillas back. Then we work with community health workers, who in Uganda are called village health teams. We train them to do conservation work and community work. So as they're visiting people's homes and giving group talks, they're also talking about all these issues that we're addressing. And this is Hope, one of our lead volunteers. We've also taught them to give injections because we added family planning onto the whole model. People have so many kids, half of them are going for school. They'll tell you half are to go to school, half are to chase wildlife from the garden. So they used to have like 10 children. It's now going down to 6 to 4, which we're really pleased about. And one of the most popular contraceptives is Depo, community-based Depo. So Rehem has given an injection to somebody in the comfort of our home, and that has really increased the family planning. So these are our VHTs, Village Health and Conservation Teams, that we work with. Dr. Lynn Gaffikin helped to set up our PHE program, Population Health Environment, and that's a government health center. We touch the gender buttons, half of the volunteers are men and half are women. It just happened to be like that. And that makes a huge difference because the men, it's about balancing the family budget, and the women, it's about having more control over their bodies and being able to do something else than having a baby every year. And we sustain them with group projects, group goats, group cows, and VSLAs, and it's resulted in no volunteer dropouts. So the mountain gorilla population since CTPH began has increased from 700 to 1,000, which is something that we're very pleased about. People are more tolerant to gorillas, like Kanyoni, the one I showed you, when his father decided to retire in community land when he was too old to keep up with the group. They looked after him till he died. Gorillas are falling sick less often. They haven't had scabies. Giardia has gone down. And they are healthier. People are healthier. Hand washing facilities have gone up 3 times. Family planning is highest in Bwindi, over 67%, higher than the rest of Uganda. This particular lady called Flora, she's a Batwa. She's one of the indigenous people who Chris was talking about. Her family was evicted from the forest to create a national park. We work with Flora. She's one of our lead village health and conservation team volunteers within the Batwa settlement. She's now able to sell crafts to tourists. It's my son Indigo wearing one of the masks. And she's a happy person. And she even said recently in a meeting, we want to visit the gorillas as tourists, which is really great because the Batwa community has had a lot of budget. We want to expand to, we've started expanding around Bwindi, and we want to, and a little bit in Virungas, and we want to go further in to Kahuzi, Biega, and Itombwe, working with Dominic and other local partners in DRC. And we want to work, we need support to expand to all other areas. We're working with Jengudo Institute in Budongo to promote the model with chimps, Uganda Wildlife Authority to promote it in other places. And yeah, we need all the support we can get from everyone here in whichever way we can to help us meet our goals. There are 11 countries in Africa with gorillas, and we know that our model could possibly work in all those places. Thank you very much.